Okay, so we are looking at Unit 2, Quadratic Functions, Review. This is your test for your whole quadratic unit that we've been spending forever on. So we need to really pay attention. I want you guys to do well on this test. Okay, first it wants us to graph this function and then describe how it was translated from y equals x squared. So the first thing I like to do is think about, this is in vertex form. So my vertex is the opposite of what x is. It's 6, negative 3. So I'm going to go over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Down 1, 2, 3. Okay? Shh. I'm sorry. I'm not sure why anybody else is talking right now. Okay, because I'm not even close to being done. All right. Now, I want to know what other 2 points I could put here. So oftentimes what I would do is I would then plug in, I was like, okay, I have 6 and negative 3. So what happens if I plug in 7? I would get 7 minus 6 squared minus 3. 7 minus 6 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So if I have negative, stop talking, please. Please don't talk anymore. If you have a question, please raise your hands. If you cannot control yourself, walk out the door. ISS is waiting for you. Okay, so if we go over 7, we would go down 2. And it's symmetrical, so it's the same on both sides. So I can do that. So that is my graph right there. Now we know y equals x looks like this. There's 2 other adults in the room. You can't ask one of them. Okay, so we're going from the orange one to the one I just did. Jackson, that phone's going to go in my pocket. What do I do? To go from here, what did I do? Did I go right, left, up, or down to get there? Right, 6, down 3. Okay? Right 6 and down 3. Yes? I just picked 7 because I knew it was right next to it. I could have picked 5. I usually pick ones that are right next to it because I feel like that's easier. To make it look right, yeah. You could put it in your graphing calculator too to come up with that number. Okay? Then you will not get the right answer and you will not get full credit.
I can put any
yeah.
and it'll.
Yeah. I mean, so watch. Okay, let's try this. I am going to go to the graphing part, and I put this in. I put parentheses, x minus 6 squared on the outside of that minus 3. Okay, so it gives me my graph right there. If you hit Control T, it gives you all the points. So I know my vertex is when it starts repeating. So if I look at 6, I get negative 3. Do you see that on either side of it, it gives me negative 2? I mean, I didn't even have to plug that in. Although the plugging in didn't take me very long. If they're not doing anything. Okay. And then we're going to go to number 2. We're using the graphing calculator to graph this function. So I just showed you how to do it. So we're going to just put right inside. Please stop whispering. Thanks. We're going to put in the graphing calculator 4 parentheses x plus 1 squared minus 2. And we get our graph. Okay? It shows me what the vertex is, and I can do it right here because this is in vertex form. So what's the vertex of this graph? It's not positive 1, but it's negative 1 and negative 2. Remember, it's opposite of x. So I know my vertex is negative 1, negative 2. Okay? My axis of symmetry has to be x equals negative 1. Okay, again, you could hit Control T, and you could see that like at when x is 0, y is 2, so we know it crosses right there, so we know it has to be the same on the other side. So we can have the good graph right there. What's the domain? What are the x possibilities? Remember, this is just going to get wider and wider. What's the x possibilities? So this gets wider and wider, right, as it goes up. So are there any limits to x?
No.
So it's all real numbers. So I put like that funky R, or you could say all real.
So would you do the same thing that you did for the first one, like the 7?
Yeah. Or I just would put it in, it says right there to put it in your graphing calculator. So I would just look off my graphing calculator. And my range. My range means that y has to be greater than or equal to what? What's the y value at right here at the bottom? It has to be bigger than that, right? What is it? -2. Yep. -2. Okay.
How do you know what to put? Is it
It's always going to be the y value of the vertex.
so why is it going to be greater than or equal to?
Yeah, unless it's turned upside down, and then it's going to be less than or equal to. Okay, let's look at number 3. Okay, I like to write vertex form on the top of my paper, and it'll be on, if it's not on your test, I'll put it on the board tomorrow. So it's y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Okay? We've got vertex and a point, and we need to write this as an equation. Okay? We've got the vertex and the point. We need to write this as an equation. In order to do this, we need to plug everything in. Okay? 1 is going to be my h, 4 is going to be my k, 2 is going to be my x, and 3 is going to be my y. What letter am I missing? Look up here, A. So A is what I'm going to find out, and then I'm going to rewrite the equation with the A. Okay? So instead of y, I'm going to write -3 equals A times 2 minus 1 squared plus 4. This one is, I think, pretty easy, but everybody forgets how to do it. So that's how I like to do it, is you label h, k, x, and y, and then you plug it all in. Yes, Mandy?
How do you know which numbers to let label X,
Okay, remember vertex, the h comes first, just like x comes first. K comes second, just like y comes second. Okay? And then it's the point is just x and y. Okay? So whatever the vertex is, that's your h and k. Whatever the point is, that's your x and y. Okay, now I'm just going to solve this for a. So I get -3 equals a times 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. -3 minus 4 is -7 equals a times 1. Yep, sorry. Want me to zoom in a little too? Now I can divide by 1, but I know that's -7. So now I'm just going to rewrite the equation. Y equals -7 times x minus 1 squared plus 4. That h and k always needs to be in there, that 1 and 4, but the x and y does not. We only put the x and y in there to find out what a is. This is the equation. Because remember, that equation looks like that U shape, or in this case looks like an N shape like this. That x and y can be any point on here. That vertex is the point right at the top. The a is telling me it's becoming wider or negative or narrower. Yes, Abby. I just divided by 1, and it's still just -7, right? Questions? This is one that I get a question on all the time, and I don't think it's very difficult. You just don't remember how to do it. Remember to plug in h, k, x, and y, solve for a. Once you have a, plug a and h and k back in, and you should be good.
So that's it.
Yep.
And that's all you do.
Yep.
And you plug in
I
H.
see more
Yep.
complicated.
Plug in H, K, X, and Y, solve for A, then plug A, H, and K back in. All right, number 4. Find the vertex of this quadratic function and determine whether the graph opens up or down. Hint, you could use your graphing calculator. So how do we find the axis of symmetry? Do you guys remember?
Isn't it negative B over 2?
Correct. So my B is 2. My B is 2. My A is negative 1. So I'm going to go negative 2 over 2 times negative 1 gives me 1. So that's my axis of symmetry. How do I find the y value of my vertex? Because the x value of my x value of my vertex is the axis of symmetry. So that's 1. So what do I do to find the y value of my vertex? You take this and you plug it in. Right? This is x. See how these x's are right here? Put them in. Negative 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 8. 1 times 1 is 1, but it's got a negative in front of it, so it's negative 1. 2 times 1 is 2 minus 8. I'm literally taking this right here and I'm plugging in 1 for x. Am I going too fast?
No, I was just confused on the negative 1.
So see how the negative is on the outside of the x, so we have to keep it there. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. 1 minus 8 is negative 7. So I get 1, negative 7 is my answer. Okay. Now, is this graph going up or down?
Down.
How do you know?
Because it's negative.
Because there's a negative in front of the A. Good. Okay. Yep.
So you plug in 1 for the A,
Yep.
and then you just get negative 1 plus 2 minus 8.
Yep.
And then that's your y,
Yep.
and 1 is x.
Yep. Christian.
I don't know.
Just stretching. Okay. Number 2, I know we all hate because it's a what? Right problem. Okay. The curvature of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge in Washington is the shape of a parabola. In the given function, x represents the horizontal distance in meters from the arch's left end, and y represents the vertical distance in meters from the base of the arch. What is the width of the arch? Okay. So this looks really complicated, but gives me my equation right down here in this picture. And I'm going to tell you this, and I would tell you this on a test. You're going to find the vertex, and then you're going to double the x value of the vertex, and that's going to be the width. Okay? They want from here to here this whole width. Okay? So the vertex is halfway in between. It's in the middle. So that's halfway. So you just times it by 2, and that gets your answer. So we're just going to find the vertex of this equation. So what's the vertex of this? We've got, I'm going to write it bigger, negative 0.016 times x minus 52.5 squared plus 45. Okay, what is the vertex of this equation? It's in vertex form.
Isn't it positive 52.5?
Comma 45, yep, that's my vertex. So I'm going to take the x value, 52.5, and I'm going to times it by 2. Yep, 52.5. Not 525, 52.5. 52.5 times 2 gives us 105 meters. I just multiplied 52.5 times 2.
Why didn't you do that to the 45?
Because it's just asking, because x talks about the width, x to y, where the y talks about how high it is, and I want to know how wide it is.
Is this question you have a test?
Not this, no.
Is it going to be like the next time?
Don't quote me on this because I'm not looking at it in front of me, but I don't believe there's a word problem on your quiz.
Yes.
On your
Thank
test.
you, Ms. Wood.
I don't think we spent enough time on word problems. Okay, we're going to turn it over and we're going to do some factoring. Factoring. Okay, again, I like to use the box method to do these. We're looking at number 6. 20 goes here, x squared goes here. What times what gives us 20? That adds together to give us negative 9. 4 times 5, so it's x. Negative 4 and negative 5 because we want negative 9, but a positive 20. So x minus 5, x minus 4 is the answer. Yep. Let's try number 7. Yeah. So I've got negative 5, negative 4, negative 5x plus negative 4x gives me negative 9x. Negative 5 times negative 4 gives me positive 20. Okay. Next one. We've got 9x squared and negative 16. Just move this baby. Yep. Yep. I'm going over the review, so as soon as I'm done, I'll have it come back. Yep. Abby, make sure you stop by the counseling office before you go home. Okay. So, I'm sure it's to pick up your stuff that you have to take home to your dad to sign. Okay. Glad that was on record, right? Recorded. All right. So, there's a shortcut to this. Do we agree 9 and 16 are both perfect squares?
No.
Okay, what's the square root of 9?
3.
So this is going to be 3x and 3x. What's the square root of 16? Try again. 4. Okay. One of them needs to be negative and one's positive. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x, but 3x times positive 4 is 12x. And negative 4 times positive 4 is negative 16. Do you guys see that 12x and negative 12x cancel? So your answer is just 3x minus 4 times 3x plus 4. So this is my hint to you. If you see a problem where there's nothing in between them, if they're both perfect squares, you can just skip right here to here, right? Yep, I can say that all again. Okay. If you have the difference between two perfect squares, so 9 is a perfect square, 3 times 3 is 9. 16 is a perfect square, 4 times 4 is 16. There's nothing in the middle, there's only two terms. You can just take the square root of both of them and go 3x minus 4 times 3x plus 4. You can just skip right to the end. There'll just be one with a negative, one with a positive. Like the conjugate, remember, from the I stuff? Okay. All right. The next one, I'm just going to go through some of these and do the answers because I don't want to run out of enough time. But you're going to factor this. Your answer for it should be 2x minus 7 and x plus 1. If we have enough time, I'll come back. Okay? Number 9, you should factor it and you should get m minus 2 and m minus 4 equals 0. And then you can solve each one for m by going m minus 2 equals 0. So you should get 2 and 4 as your answers. Number 10, we have x squared equals negative 144. So how do we get rid of an x squared? We square root and we'll get I. Yep, so we'll get x equals 12i. Right? Because the square root of 144 is 12, right? Yeah. Make sure when you take the square root of something, you leave the square root off, Abby. Remember, the square root of 4 is 2, not square root 2. The square root of 144 is 12, not square root 2. Okay, number 11. You had, I actually made this one extra credit on your quiz. You're going to subtract 5. We get 2 times x minus 2 squared equals negative 2. You're going to divide by 2. You get x minus 2 squared equals negative 1. And then how do you get rid of something that's squared? You take the square root. So you get x minus 2 equals, what's the square root of negative 1 again? I. And then you're going to add 2 to both sides. So x equals 2 plus I is your answer. Okay. Number 12, we're subtracting. What's 8 minus 9? Negative 1. What's 4i minus a negative 4i? Negative and negative makes it a?
Positive.
So it should be 4i, right? See these two negatives right here?
Yes.
4i minus a negative 4i makes it 8i. Okay? I don't know who's playing music or something so loud I can hear it, but please turn it off. You should be paying attention. We're going to multiply. So we've got 6 negative 8i, 6 positive 8i. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 8i is 48i. 6 times negative 8i. Whoever has the phone that's making noise, turn it off. Is negative 48i. Negative 8i times 8i is negative 64i squared. Right? Which makes this positive 64. The 48s cancel. 64 plus 36 gives me 64, 74, 84, 94 plus 6 is 100. Okay? It's like multiplying by the conjugate. Which is what we're going to do for number 14. When we're dividing, we've got to multiply by the conjugate. So we get 3 minus 4i and 3 minus 4i. So we have to do this multiplication twice. 2 and negative 5i. Sorry, there's not a lot of time left, guys. So I know I'm going fast, but I want to make sure you see all of these. Times 3 minus 4i. Yeah. No. 2 times 3 is 6. You'll have time on Thursday to do it. 2 times negative 4i is negative 8i. Negative 5i times 3 is negative 15i. Negative 5i times negative 4i is 20i squared, which gives us negative 20. 6 and negative 20 gives me negative 14. Negative 15i and negative 8i, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, negative 23i. And then we're going to have it over something, so we're going to have to multiply it again. We've got 3 and 4i and 3 and negative 4i. We know 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times negative 4i is 12i. 3 times 4 is positive 12i. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16i squared, which gives me a positive 16. 16 plus 9 is 25. So both of these is 25. Okay. We're going to factor 9x squared plus 16. You can't factor this, can you?
No. How would you say?
Yeah. Well, if it was negative, you could, but like we're making it like this, right? This is 9x squared and this is 16. Well, we know this would be 3x and 3x. And this would be 4 and 4, but then there would be a number in between here. So this is not factorable. You have to find numbers that would go in here that would add up to 0, and there aren't. Okay, we know we're going to skip 16 and 17. We're going to go right to 18. Going to go right to 18. 16 is complete the square. Can't do it, because I haven't taught you how to do complete the square. 17, rewrite in vertex form. Haven't taught you how to do that because you have to do it with complete the square. So 16 and 17 you don't do. 18, this is my A, this is my B, and this is my C. We're going to put it in the quadratic formula. So that's negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4, A is 2, times C is 7, all over 2 times 2, because 2 times A. Okay, so we're going to end up with 4 plus or minus all over 4. Negative 4 is 16. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56. 16 minus 56 is?
Oh, what minus
16 minus 56. 6 minus 6 is 0. 5 minus 1 is 4. So it's negative 40. Okay? So we know we take out a negative. So we get 4 plus or minus I square root 40 over 4.
Please dismiss the boys freshman and JV basketball team to meet their bus at the west end pool doors. Once again, please dismiss the boys freshman and JV basketball team to meet their bus at the west end pool doors. Thank you.
Okay, the square root of 40. What two numbers multiplied gives 40 where one is a perfect square, where we've got 4 and 10. So we get 4 plus or minus 2i square root 10 over 4. Because 40 is 4 times 10. Then I reduce. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. So I get 2 plus or minus I square root 10 over 2 is my answer. Okay. Number 19. I'm going to subtract 3x from the other side, and I get x squared minus 3x plus 6 equals 0. And then I'm just going to use the quadratic formula again. So I'm going to go negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times 1 times c, which is 6, all over 2 times 1. And I get 3 plus or minus the square root. Negative 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. 9 minus 24 is negative 15 over 2. Luckily, there is no perfect square that goes into 15, so we're almost done. So we go 3 plus or minus I square root 15 over 2, and that's our answer. Okay. One more, and it's a story problem. If there was a story problem on your test, it would be like this one, and I just want to double check to make sure there aren't any story problems. Okay, so it wants to know, does the ball ever reach 12 meters? So if it says that, there's no story problems on your test. If it says the height of 12 meters, what it's really asking for is the y value of the vertex. So we're just going to do the negative b over 2a, and then plug that in to here to figure it out. So we're going to go negative b over 2a. So that's negative 10 over 2 times negative 5. Yep, negative 10 over negative 10 is 1. And then we're going to plug 1 in. So we go negative 5 times 1 squared plus 10 times 1 plus 6. 1 times 1 is 1. So we get times negative 5 is negative 5 plus 10 plus 6. Negative 5 plus 10 is 5. 5 plus 6 is 11. So does the height ever get to 12?
No.
No.
Yes.
Negative 5 plus 10 is 5. And then 5 plus 6. So no, because it never gets to a height of 12. Okay, we have another few minutes. Do you want me to go back and do the
M, and enjoy the M.
the M one for number 9?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So number 9, all I'm doing is factoring this. So that's that whole thing where this is m squared and this is 8, right? M times m is m. What two numbers multiply to give us positive 8 but add together to give us negative 6?
4, 2.
It would have to be negative 4 and negative 2, correct? Because negative 2m and negative 4m is negative 6m. And negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. So far, so good? Okay. And then we have m minus 2 times m minus 4 equals 0. So we just make each one equal to 0. M minus 2 equals 0, so add 2 to both sides. So m equals 2. M minus 4 equals 0, so you add 4 to each side. So m equals 4. You're just making each one of them equal to 0. Positive 4. Because you add 4 to each side, right? If it's minus 4, you plus 4. Right, that's negative 4, so we add 4 to both sides. That's 4, that's positive. M minus 2 equals 0. So we add 2 to both sides, we get m equals 2. M minus 4 equals 0, so we add 4 to both sides, and m equals 4. Okay, number 8. So I like to do, when they have an a in front, I like to do it by grouping. So I say to myself, 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. What two numbers multiply to give me negative 14 but add together to give me negative 5?
72.
Yeah, and 7 has to be negative, right? Because 2 plus negative 7 gives me negative 5. Okay, so I've got 2x squared plus 2x minus 7x minus 7. And then I do by grouping. I bring out a 2, x, so I get x plus 1. And I take out a negative 7, so I get x plus 1. So that's 2x minus 7 right there, x plus 1 right there. You don't have to do it that way. You can make the box and figure it out. I think it's easier to do it this way. Okay, I'm stopping the recording. Watch this again tonight to study for your test.